Oh, we never finished the story about how much money is being transferred from boomers to the younger generations and how you guys can get more of that money. A lot of people have moved back home and they're thinking to themselves, why in the world would I try to buy a home when I can just wait out my parents? Like, why go into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to try to break even on that in 30 years when my parents will be dead in 10? And then I just get the house. I just get all of it, right? Look at this, though. We're talking about $53 trillion, guys. That's a massive amount of money. Now, it is not going to transfer all at once. Like, the way the news portrays this, especially a lot of the media, like on the streaming world, it's that this is going to be a $53 trillion transfer of wealth overnight. Not necessarily. And this isn't $53 trillion in cash. I think that's what people misunderstand. Let me explain this to you. This is what and I'm not making a political statement here, but I just want there to be factual information. This transfer is not like bank account pallets of cash. Okay, that's not what's going to happen here. $50 to $75 trillion is what baby boomer generation owns in assets. Now, if you want to count, where that is, it's lower if you count in total net worth, because assets minus debt is what your net worth is. But it's $50 to $75 trillion in assets if you take into account retirement accounts and homes and stuff like that. The part of this, though, is that this is so big now because the market in the last couple of years is at an all-time high, and the housing market is an all-time high. So when you take that into consideration, these numbers are a little bit inflated compared to where they were just a couple years ago and where they'll probably be if we get a correction in any way, okay? But I want you to think about this. $50 to $75 trillion is what boomers have. Now, we love to look at this and say those are the people we need to take down. They're the hoarders of the wealth. They're the ones that are, they're the reason that we have little, and they've screwed us over to benefit themselves only, and they screwed us, and they are the bad people. Well, the truth is, I mean, there's some truth to that, but there's truth to that in every generation. The truth is they've just been around a long time. And 60 years from now, when you're their age, the shit that you own now is going to be worth a lot more too. Not because of anything but other than inflation or just, supply and demand. Right? I don't want people to think I'm making, excuses for people or anything, but I think that there's a lot of misinformation about boomers and their money, right? They were products of their generation, and a lot of them bought houses when they were, did you see the report today, guys? In this year, 2023, I talked about it in the morning call this morning. Do you want to know what the average first-time home buyer looked like? 35, making $95,000 a year. That was your average first-time home buyer in 2023. That's what your average home buyer in 2023 looked like. In 10 years, it might be 27 and 120,000. Could be 45 and 30,000 because we have an economic collapse. I don't fucking know where it's going to go, but that's where it was. So the idea that it's only rich people, only this, no, there's a lot of things to consider. So boomers have this money, okay? And a lot of it is just time and growth, right? Like, for example, a lot of you guys hate people because they bought stocks at a low level. I mean, how many do you guys hate people that bought Microsoft at $9 a share? Right? There's stocks that you've bought today or this month that are worth $7 that when you retire, after splits and divvies and stuff like that, are going to be worth $1,000 a share. Because it's time and compounding, right? So if you have 1,000 shares of this now, right, at $7,000, right, you have $7,000 worth of it right now. You're gonna have, it's gonna be worth $1 million. Then it's about time. So a lot of that money is just time. But here's what I want you to take away from this: not how they got the money, where the money's going, or like that. What I want people to understand about this is how the wealth is transferred. Okay, everyone's saying the largest transfer of wealth in human history. Well, yeah. We have the largest increase of population in a generation ever. So obviously there's more people. There was more work, more growth of the economy, more things that happened. They all had money. They've been doing it a long time. And now they are going to start. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, right? There's boomers that have been dying for the last 20 years, and they'll be dying for the next 20 years. So you've got a big gap here. How is that transfer going to happen? Remember, these are assets. Okay, these are not bank accounts. These aren't piles of pallets of cash that are just being handed over from bank account to bank account. Most of this, or a good chunk of this, is in housing. So they're going to pass away, and they're going to pass their house on. Now, if they have a kid, and that kid is 60 or 50 or 60, they probably have a home too, and they have kids that are in their 20s. So what's going to happen with that house? Is somebody going to buy it? Is somebody going to move into it? Are they going to sell it to pay for things and then spend that up? Who's that going to go to? It's not like it's a direct bank account of transfer of grandpa died and now dad got all his money. Right? You got the government and the IRS, they're getting their cut. You've got, the inheritance tax, property tax, sales tax, and then you've got siblings, and remember, this is assets. So it's not like tomorrow or one day everyone's going to wake up and $50 trillion all of a sudden in a bunch of, Gen X people's bank account, right? So it's a slow trickle, and it is a trickle down. Now, people who aren't part of that trickle down or that generation that moved on hate this. Because it's not their family. I'm not talking about the Bill Gates and the Jeff Bezos of the world. I'm talking about grandpa who worked at the Ford Motor Factory from 1950 to 1985, retired with a pension, bought a house, has a boat, and has a nice fat 401k, right? People hate that. They'll lump in all the people with the 0.1% because they're not, I'm getting nothing. Both my parents are dead. My grandfather doesn't have anything. I get nothing. But that doesn't mean that somebody whose grandparents are alive, who have a pension, a house, and they're going to pass off, people are mad because they're like, why am I not getting some of that? Like, do you hear how fucking self-serving that is? Like, I get what you mean. It feels like it's not fair that you were born into a family that didn't, have that. But the idea that you're upset because you're not getting someone else's money that they worked for, and therefore nobody should get it, is kind of a weird thing. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about the ultra rich who got trust funds and the bullshit. I'm talking about the other thing, right? There's a lot of people, not you guys, but there's a lot of people out there who are like, this generational wealth is bullshit. It shouldn't happen, and they should have it all taxed because of... And I'm like, how much are you getting from grandpa? Nothing. So then why are you so angry? Oh, I get it, right? Not making excuses for boomers, okay? There were a lot of boomers that did things, their generation of their time, and you don't make excuses, right? Just because it was normal for men to get drunk and beat their wives or people to call people of color different bad words, we can't just be like, oh, that was just their time, it's okay. No, it was a horrible fucking thing, but it was also a norm in that time. So when you look back, you're like, these guys took advantage of what was in front of them when it came to not having environmental protections, right? They worked for companies that made extra billions of dollars because they didn't have to worry about dumping chemicals in a safe space. They just dumped it in the river. And because of that, the profit sharing went into pensions, and grandpa was part of that pension program. Okay, grandpa was part of some evil shit, all right? I mean, some of y'all, married into some South American families, and your girlfriend's from Argentina, and her great-grandfather is sitting on, like, gold, and you're like, how did he get that? I thought Argentina was poor. And then you're like, oh, right? We know that there's some historical shit and money was made over some bad stuff, okay? But what I'm getting at, and I think I'm getting off traffic here, is off topic, not traffic, is that the way this generational wealth is going to be passed down is not just checks and not Christmas cards with hundreds of billions of dollars in it. It's going to go down through assets. And a lot of those assets are actually going to get sold off, because if you're 50 years old and your mom and dad are in their late 80s and they pass away, if you don't have a house by then, I don't know what's going on. So it's not like grandma and grandpa are gonna pass on and then they send a check. They're going to have their house. And then, it's probably smaller then mom and dad's, they're probably going to sell it off. Sure, they make money, but that also adds houses into the inventory to the market, which actually lowers the value of houses for other people, right? So there's a lot working here. And I don't know, I blacked out over the past 15 minutes. I don't even know why we started this, but I wanted people to understand that this is going to be the largest transfer of wealth in history, but a lot of it has to do with just the size of the boomer generation, the amount of time that money was investing, the way the stock market, economy, inflation, and global indices went in that time frame, and how a lot of it was just compounding over time and not necessarily nefarious things that happened. Obviously, part of that is going to be, people that exploited, but a good portion of that is just time. And then one day, like I look at it this way. Here's how I look at it. I came from nothing. I'm not going to, you guys all know my story, but I'm getting nothing. There was no wealth in the history of my family, right? If there was, it was lost long ago. Nothing is getting passed down. Nothing got passed down. There's nothing. And I am doing my damnedest to start a new cycle where I can pass things on down to my kids. And it's not that I'm a bad person or I'm trying to build generational wealth. I'm doing it as honest work. I'm trying to do it my way. I found a niche. I'm doing it. And I'm trying to build something that will grow that then I may not be the beneficiary of generational wealth. Nothing is passed to me. I'm starting from zero. Hell, I was at zero 10 years ago, right? And I'm building something up. But the idea is to get that ball rolling because I want my kid to have some of the opportunities that I didn't have. And hopefully I keep saying my kid, I have two now. I keep forgetting I have a second kid. They will then hopefully make smart decisions and take that advantage, albeit a small one, but meaningful, and use that to springboard to grow and then potentially pass on a better opportunity to the younger and to the younger. Now, is this going to be a snowball effect? Is Stocky going to be the one that history looks back and says, F that guy? Because Stocky, who had nothing, passed this on to his kid. And his kids took that and turned it into something and passed it on to their kids. And they grew it and grew it and grew it. And then 10 generations down the line, they're a space dictator. Because they have like palladium mines on comets and oxygen cartels in the universe, and there's a space dictator and they're evil, and someone's trying to develop a time machine and they're going back in time, and it used to be, would you go back in time and kill baby Hitler? And now it'll be, will you go back in time and kill Stocky? So hell, you guys might see me, the glass break and me just go, and it's some fucking person going back in time wiping me out because I started the generational wealth cycle that led to a space dictator. No, not space Hitler. Jesus fucking Christ. Space dictator. So just in case 1,000 years from now, someone is going through the historical documents to find out how they got into this situation of horror and pain, and you're hate watching me from the future. Hi, I'm Stocky. Chat, in case we are being watched 1,000 years in the future, this is your chance to speak to them. I'm horny. Yes, I want to know if Stocky's descendants inherited his hairline. Furries used to be looked down on? Okay, dude. What would you say to them, Stocky? Hi, future people. We're a dumb generation. People today actually thought Bitcoin was going to be the future of money. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to start. I'm kidding.